Tom Evans, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. It's a real pleasure to have you here. For those who are unfamiliar with your work, could you tell us what you do?
Well, that's a great question. At the end of my most recent books, bearing in mind I've just turned 67 and kind of technically
Wow.
retired, but not really, I say Tom still doesn't know what he wants to do when he grows up because every time I think I know what it is that I do, another thing comes along. So I thought I was a broadcast engineer, and then I morphed into this thing called the internet when the internet came out. And then I became an author by accident in my late 40s. So I thought I was an author. Then I started helping people write their books because people approached me saying, "You've written a book, Tom. Can you help me write a book?" So I became an author's mentor. And then I put some meditations along with my books so people could experience the consciousness states that I was describing in my books rather than just reading about them. And then Insight Timer discovered me in 2015. And then I learned I was a meditation teacher, even though I had not been inside an ashram or learned meditation. And then I thought it'd be nice if I could have my own ambient music to go along with my meditations rather than license it. So I learned how to compose ambient music. And I'd written God knows how many non-fiction books. So I thought I'd become a novelist and a philosopher. And now I've just opened, literally this year, a school for practical alchemy, teaching practical alchemy. So a whole mix of things. But the theme that runs all the way through is just curiosity and fun and playfulness.
It sounds like you've drawn from all of your experiences, even though they
Yeah,
might seem differently on the surface, different from on the surface.
yeah, but there's one of the themes is how can you ground this metaphysical stuff so we can do with what people think is a bit woo woo, get real world tangible results.
Mhm. I think that's one challenge I see with spiritual community is the lack of groundedness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big thing, yeah, it's a big thing, and I think that what we are essentially is spirits having this three-dimensional experience with our heart at the center as the conduit between the above to the below. So it's quite easy with a bit of practice to tune into the above, and it also you can be very grounded and not tune into it, but being this sort of conduit between the above and the below is kind of the secret, really, to most practical alchemy, which could include writing a book or whatever.
Mhm. So would you say that all of the things that you've done have kind of come into your orbit and you've just responded to them rather than you being active in following these paths?
Yeah, yeah. I've got a course on Insight Time, which is also I've got an expanded version of that in my school called Your Soul Path or the Soul Path. And what I learned was, if you start setting goals and you say, I must achieve this by um, such an amount of time and all that sort of so-called smart goals, I learned weren't that smart at all. It's much better if you allow your soul path to be revealed to you rather than trying to chase it. And then a more wondrous journey than you can ever imagine in your wildest dream will just open up for you.
Reminds me of the book, The Surrender Experiment. Have you read that?
No, but I like the title. I'm intrigued by it already.
Yeah, it's by Michael Singer, the same guy who wrote The Untethered Soul. And it's really about his life unfolding and having no goals almost, and how
Yeah.
everything just came into place. And for someone who, like myself, has just published a book on manifestation, that seems almost counterintuitive. How would you, how do you see manifestation in that context?
Well, no, manifestation is good. But what you can do, though, is you can manifest things ahead of time
Mhm.
without even knowing what they are. And I met a shamanka so many years ago, a female shaman, and she would sing at you and with this most amazing vocal range and literally her voice would shake things that are stuck inside you out. And she taught me this system called learning based goal system. So instead of trying to manifest what you think might be good, like the Ferrari or the $2 million home and all that sort of stuff, you manifest you write down what you want to learn. Simple as that. And say in a month, I want to learn this. In 3 months, you want to learn that. In a year, I want to learn this. And then what happens is the cosmos seems to bring the eventualities together for you to embrace those learnings. And as a byproduct, the things that you want to manifest. But specifically, things that you didn't know you wanted manifest as well. They tend to be along the same sort of theme. And after a while, you can drop systems at all and just manifest effectively by being grateful for what turns up.
Wow, without having a specific idea about what that thing
Yeah,
is.
because when you become, if you're very good at manifestation, which you do a modicum of spiritual training, you be quite good at it because your thoughts literally become things. What happens is if you've got a certain amount of thoughts, you can manifest those things which are lesser than the things that you didn't know you could manifest.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, which is no bad thing. I
Mm.
got into smart goals. I used smart goals for a couple of years, but I noticed I manifested about 50% of them, and I thought that wasn't a good success rate. So I started when I got into learning-based goal settings, then better things would manifest that I hadn't thought about, and then after a while, you can just completely give up any goal setting system at all. It's a bit like when you're a kid. You remember I go to the baths near Moss Side in Manchester, and you have water wings, and then you do breaths of the bath. You can still put your feet on the floor, and then you can take your water wings off, and you get to swim from side to side. And then you say, right, now I'm going to do lengths, and you're going to halfway down the bath, you can't put your feet down anymore. It's a bit like that with goal setting. You get to a certain point, you say, okay, I'm just going to let the cosmos tell me what's going to happen, and I'll just step into that thing as and when. It takes a bit of trust, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was I actually went to Withington Baths.
Yeah,
Which but I actually never would learned to swim out of my depth. And I was thinking about that kind of recently because I thought it's not something that happens physically, it's in your mind. It's a mind shift,
uh,
learning to swim or something like that.
uh, and just floating along is a good thing to do as well. Going with the current, so rather than trying to push water uphill, just go along with the cosmic flow. It's a lot easier way of being. And the best way to do that, by the way, is to tune into cosmic timings like the moon phase and the
Mm.
sea.
Well, we have cosmic timings on this podcast. It's full moon, new moon, first quarter, third quarter. We do sexuality on the full moon. And then third quarter, I do a meditation, a guided visualization. Yeah. So, can you give us another example of a learning-based goal that's worked for you, and what that shift was like from having a specific out when you're focused on an outcome? What is a learning-based goal, and could you give an example of something that you've tried?
Well, I think one of my first ones was the publication of my first book.
Mm.
One, I didn't plan to write the book, but it came in. And I wrote it on a 747 halfway across the Atlantic. It channeled in. I didn't even know it was a channel at that time. It just popped in, fully formed, and it was called 100 Years of Ermintrude. And I didn't know it was any good, so I shared it with my life partner on holiday, and I'd written it as a forward chronology. This lady called Ermintrude lives to 100. I wrote it in rhyme as a sort of set of poems that snapshots of this lady's life all the way from naught to 100. In fact, I think it starts in the womb, about 9 months in the womb, and goes on. And then she said to me, "Well, turn it backwards. Just go backwards." And so I literally edited. I had a Science 7 at the time. There were no iPhones or iPads. It was about 2005, and I went from 100 down to zero. And boy, it was perfect backwards. Even better backwards. I only found out later that F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote Benjamin Button
Oh
about
yeah.
him living backwards as well. So anyway, I got this book. I put it out there as a PDF. I ended up giving all the proceeds to a charity called Walk the Walk because it mentions breast cancer. It's not about breast cancer. I gave all the proceeds to Walk the Walk. Ended up walking around London in a bra for 26 miles, which you don't plan to do. That wasn't on my life plan. But I needed to get it. Then I wrote two sequels because the book itself wasn't big enough to be published. I wrote two sequels, and then it became big enough. And I thought, right, I need to learn how to publish this book. And I went to the London Book Fair, and I just felt drawn to this one stand, and they became the publisher for this book. So just setting this intention that I'm going to go along
Mm-hmm.
to not to find a publisher,
Mm.
but to learn about publishing. I wasn't at the book fair to find a publisher, and lo and behold, the perfect publisher just rocked up.
That sounds like a very easy distinction to make. Then not have the book, but to learn about publishing. That sounds
Yeah,
like.
and when you do that, when you go up to stands,
Mm.
I've been to many of these fairs, and this happens a lot in art. You can spot the desperate artist, yeah, and all that sort of stuff, and that because I wasn't in the mode of being desperate. I think that's what attracted me to the publisher and they published to me. and the project to them as well. They bought into the project, to the fact that this was initially it was a thing where I was trying to raise awareness through some of the themes in the book. It mentions life and death and that sort of stuff, and there was a few themes in the book that I was mentioning, and that's why I gave the money away to this charity. By the way, the publisher went bust about 2 years later and never paid me some of the royalties, but that's another thing. By that time, I was off and running, writing other books, and on this new career trajectory that I didn't know that I had as well. So yeah, so that's a good example of a learning based goal where you go along wanting to learn, not to try and manifest. It's very subtly different. It still manifests, but in a subtly different way.
Speaking about, publishers going bust, that happened to me with one of my books as well. And it was interesting because it's a book called English for Perverts. It's amazing. And it's basically grammar but with sex words. And I had this idea. I thought it was a really, because I used to be an English teacher and everyone was just unmotivated to learn. And I thought, how about we make it hot? Because I've always been a linguist. And then I wrote this book with a small publisher. They didn't even pay me. It was going to be just royalties. But then they went bust, and then Penguin picked it up.
Nice.
But I sometimes think that sometimes when you have a great idea that's amazing, maybe the publisher doesn't deserve it. And that's why, and I'm kind of glad I have another memoir I wrote 10 years ago. And I'm so glad I didn't sell well because I think it's way too personal for this publisher who had it. And sometimes those things can be a blessing, saying this, cannot hold space for your amazing idea. Maybe you need to be more in control of it.
Yeah, I think I've published 18 books now, and three with publishers, and
Mhm.
every single and it's pretty easy to. I've done four with publishers. Every single time I've worked with a publisher, I've regretted it afterwards.
Oh, wow.
They've let me down in one form or other. Whereas you've got your own books and you've got your own self control, and this
Mm,
is especially true with my latter fictional work because my dream and my learn I want to manifest
mm,
a film deal, TV rights deal for them, but it's more about learning how to do that. What's the process of learning how to get that deal? And I wrote them specifically so they were filmic and they could work on screen. But I'm not trying to manifest a film deal. I just want to learn how
mm.
to go through that process.
And people say it's the journey anyway, that's not the destination that brings more fulfillment.
Sure, yeah, yeah. And
Mm.
one thing I do know, if you don't want to get a film deal for your book, don't write and publish the book. So, the first step is to write and publish it, and then allow the right people to turn up at the right time.
From what my understanding in the UK as well, they work a lot with literary agents, which I find a bit frustrating. It's like having something in a drawer, you don't really know if they're gonna, you know, do it justice. They could just like have it, but they're not going to really take it to the next level.
Well, I think they work for some genres, So
Mm.
if a genre's hot, then a literary agent can work for you. I've spoken to a few, and I've helped some of my authors I've worked with when I was author mentoring find literary agents. So I think if you've got a genre that fits very nicely, if you're doing a sort of murder mystery in a library kind of thing, or young adult or something like that, that's fine. But I think my books are a bit weird enough that they haven't got a genre, so I haven't found the agent would find it. But again, if the right agent turned up, I'd be open for that to happen.
Yeah, I love the way use the word weird. Steve Nobel, who was on here a few months ago, used that a lot about embracing your weirdness. Because
Mhm.
sometimes when you go through life, it can seem like something that's quite bad, but then as we get older, becomes a real asset, and especially in this world of spirituality. Has that been your journey as well?
Yeah, and actually, my soul path has intersected with Steve's in the past when he was working
Mm.
at Alternatives. They engaged me to do a 1 day channeling workshop in London, and so Steve and I have met and know of each other. I must try and reconnect with him now. We're both on Insight Time, but it's certainly my experience that the weird isn't that weird when you realise that's kind of the way the world works.
Yeah, everyone else is weird.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely. So what was your spiritual awakening like? Was it a gradual process? Was it a sudden one?
Oh, that's good. That's a great question. Well, actually, I think that book that I talked about was the thing. I went on. I met through a networking group called Academy, which was active in the early 2000s, a bunch of people. I just stopped. I was bored basically. I had a midlife hiccup. I built and sold two businesses and got a bit stressed. And someone said to me, "You look a bit haggard. You need to meditate." And I said, "Well, don't be stupid. I haven't got time. Can't switch my mind off." But I persisted, learned a few techniques, and then as I started to meditate, weird things started to happen.
Mm.
And I mean weird things. And so as an engineer, I was quite intrigued by these weird things. So I went on a few weekend courses to understand them. And
Can
as
you
I
give us an example of the weird things?
well, doing a full body levitation, is that weird enough for
Oh,
you?
wow, that's very weird.
Okay. Healing at a distance, I did some Reiki healing and all these things happened, and coincidences and knowings. And for a period of my life, I went to every night when I was asleep, it felt like I was having out of body experiences. People might call them alien abductions, and the flashing lights all over my brain. And this it's almost like I was being reprogrammed and stuff like that. So, but I start to get knowings. I start to know things that hadn't occurred yet. And so I looked into all of that stuff from a metaphysical angle. And the more and more, and the biggest thing I think I learned from the whole thing is that time is malleable and you can
Wow.
bend and stretch time. So I learned how to stretch time. I noticed on the days that I meditated, I got much more done on the days that I didn't meditate. I learned that when I was working in the meditative state. So I can't remember my own books because I've channeled them in. I'm in trance as they come through. So I have to read my own books. As you've been sending lovely reviews out for Soulways as you listen to it. You said, I'm at part six. I had to go into the book and say, what's in part six? I can't remember what's in part six anymore, just so I can respond to you in a slightly intelligent way. I noticed that when you're in that trancey state, which lots of artists have talked about, Salvador Dali used to have a drink at lunchtime and then put a spoon underneath his elbow. And as he fell asleep, he'd
Mm.
then paint, the spoon would clash to the floor, he'd wake up and then he'd paint what was on his mind. I learned that's called the hypnopompic time, which is this lovely state between being asleep and being awake. And what I tend to do in the morning is slide from hypnopompia straight into writing and just extend that time. In fact, I get whole chapters of books in that hypnopompic time, fully formed.
Mm. So how did you stay grounded during this time? Were you afraid at any point? Were you afraid about who you could share that with because they might think you've lost your mind? I mean, how was that for you?
Uh, That's a great question. I think what I did is I imagine that the parapet is there, right?
Mm.
This won't work if you're listening to the audio, but I just
Mm.
wanted to put my head above the parapet, so my eyes were just above the parapet, and I wrote this first book, and I didn't get shot down. And that book was in that was my first. It was a fictional book, and there's quite a lot of sensitive things in there about my feelings about life and everything. And then I wrote a non-fiction book. Then I wrote a more advanced non-fiction book, and at no point did I get shot down. I went, "This is safe." So
Mm.
about four or five books in, I wrote a book of three books in. I then did two books on the tarot, on the major arcana and the minor arcana of the tarot, but did a contemporary interpretation of them. Before that, I'd written the non-fiction book, Intrude, a book about writer's block, and a book about light bulb moments. So they were quite procedural. You can imagine them being a workshop manual or something like that. And in fact, both of those have become courses since then anyway. But then I wrote two books on metaphysics. And then after that, I wrote two books on what Tom thought and what my view of the world was. This is just me saying this is the way I think the world works. And at no point did I get shot down. But
Mm.
interestingly, before I wrote Ermintrude, I'd written Soul Waves,
Oh, wow.
but from a completely different perspective. So the current hero was just in the background, and it was all from his granddaughter's perspective. So I wrote this really what's called a shitty first draft of Solway before that, but I never published it because it wasn't. I'll be honest with it wasn't good enough. It was quite dry and flat. But all the concepts were there, and only when I went to my best friend from school's birthday on my sorry, only when I went to my best friend from school's funeral on my 59th birthday, I thought I better publish that book just in case I don't make my 60th. And I became brave enough to publish this massive tome that you've been enjoying.
Yeah,
And
death is a
it's
great
all
life
about
lesson.
it's just taking smaller steps every single time and going like, okay, sometimes you make a mistake. Sometimes, like I said, I published with a few publishers that didn't go that well. But after a while, I went, you know what, I'm just going to publish these myself and learn the whole the methodology for publishing. And as you know, it's not about publishing a book. The writing of the publishing a book at the time seems like the big hurdle, but as you know, getting it out there and getting people to read it is the becomes the bigger hurdle after then.
Amazing. So you mentioned soul waves. So for those who are unfamiliar with soul waves, every time I interview someone on this podcast, I always read their books before I interview them. So I have a whole shelf here of podcast guests' books. And as a reader, it's a real privilege to read and then actually speak to the author. So I've been listening to your book, 10-part series, Soul Waves. Just finished part 8, I think.
Mm.
I think, or maybe 7 I finished. I have a few more to go. So, but by the time this comes out, I will have finished it. And it's the first time I've listened to an audiobook. So it's a really new experience for me because I'm usually, reading actual physical books, underlining, and I don't read fiction ever. But I found in the third person, there's a lot more, you're having kind of like a bird's eye view of everything going on, everyone's thoughts and that kind of thing. And I found I had to be it's like mental aerobics. I have to be really on the ball listening to it. But then there's certain points in it that where you think, oh, this is not actually fiction, you know? So for those who are unfamiliar with soul waves, how would you describe soul waves and how did it come to you? What is soul waves?
Um, so as I got to the point in my metaphysical writings of non-fiction where I
Mm.
really wanted to to explore weird stuff. And if I'd written a book on the quantum physics of soul waves, this magical Higgs boson-like particle, which I've got no proof exists, but the idea a soul wave is what connects hearts together and bonds you with the right people at the right time, stars, stars and planets and moons. It's the missing dark energy in the universe, and I didn't have the mathematics or the physics, even though I'm trained in physics and maths, but I haven't got that ability to do a non-fiction book. And I thought, what I'll do is I'll write a fictional book to describe these things that we all intuitively know are true. And also I thought I'll throw some more themes in as well about some other non-fiction books I've read. I read some books by Steiner, for example, that encouraged me to talk about the different epochs of the Earth. We're in Epoch 5 at the moment. Soul Waves talks about the transition to Epoch 6, and in the sequel, which I'm currently writing, I talk about the transition to Epoch 7. And when you think about it's natural that we're born and we die. It's also natural that stars are born and die, and planets also are born and die. So it's not a spoiler to say in it all humanity is killed off because it's telegraphed from pretty much the start of the book anyway. But the point is only from death do we get new life, and only from death do we get evolution and whatever. So it's lots of themes put together in a non-fictional way, and underpinning it all is the fact that we've got this missing dark energy which is drawing us all together at the most perfect time. You can block it, so not believing in it blocks it. If you
Mm.
doubt it, it will block it. But if you accept it is true without even understanding it, then amazing things happen, like ended up on a podcast at the most perfect time and that kind of thing. And all the
Amazing.
things that have happened in this career path I've had, I didn't know I was an author. I didn't know I was a meditation teacher. I didn't know I was an ambient composer. I didn't know I'm now effectively running what is I think I can say this without J.K. Rowling getting too annoyed. I'm running a modern Hogwarts for adults at the moment online.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Is that the Practical Alchemy channel
Oh
you
yeah,
have?
it's called the
Or
Adytum. Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
okay. I did look up that word actually.
yeah.
I like the meaning of it. Was it a sanctuary or a very special part of what is it? How did you
Yeah.
choose the name? What does it mean?
Yeah, it's the inner part of a temple where normally only the high clergy allow the clergy in, but in this adytum, anybody can come in, and I've made it all safe, and I've made this magical stuff, this transmutation alchemy, safe for people to use in a practical, grounded way.
That's the great thing about what you're talking about practical alchemy, not just the
Yeah,
in the clouds kind of
yeah.
thing.
That's my
Yeah.
passion, making things happen. So I've got in fact, there's a whole course on there how to write a book, but how to
Uh,
channel the book in, and it's all about practical outcomes. And one way you do that is you write the first chapter, and you write the last chapter, and then the middle just gets filled in, which is absolutely wonderful.
Because would you say that writer's block is more about when you're not in the present, you're thinking about how is it going to be received, or how would you say? Because I think since I've become spiritual, I don't really have writer's block. I'm thinking about what can I contribute to the world rather than how much am I going to get paid for this? It's been a real shift.
In between 2006, when I wrote Home Intrude, and 2009, when I published my first non-fiction book, Blocks,
Mhm.
people approached me and said, "Can you help me write a book? Because you've obviously written a book." And they heard about the story about me walking around London in a bra, which is, mainly PR, but also
Mhm.
generates some money for charity, and all that sort of stuff. And I got a very large bra with cow nipples on it, because of Home Intrude in Magic Roundabout, count hassles, I should say. So what I did, I found that some people were successful, others weren't. I didn't like that success rate, so I learned about writer's block, and I learned that I went on some hypnotherapy courses. I learned that every single case of writer's block was life block masquerade.
Oops, gone frozen again. Oh no, I might have to stop and start again. Hello. Oh, it just it said life is a life block and it kind of blocked. What did you say after that?
So I think what happens when you do these things and you work it energetically, you can actually mess around with the electronics.
Too
I'll,
strong, got too strong
yeah,
in.
I'll start that from scratch, and then you can really
Okay.
together. Yeah, so I learned that when I was mentoring authors that some were fine, other people would become creatively uncreative, so they
Mm,
get really really busy at
mm,
not being creative. And I learned there was a life block in operation, and every single instance of writer's block was really a life block masquerading as writer's block. And so if you deal with the fear, so it could be the fear of failure, the fear of being ridiculed, the fear of the unknown, the fear of success, or the fear of being magnificent,
mm,
then you could get into the thing. But also, I use the fear as a catharsis. So let's write about the thing that you're finding as the block,
mm,
and writing about that fear, writing about that thing is stopping you, and actually, and getting into the practice of journaling. So you're using meditation and journaling at the same time, getting into that flow, and then doing what I did was just publish the odd thing, publish an article, publish at the time blogging started then, so everyone was blogging. So I used a blog just to write a I think Soul Waves. I must find it somewhere. I think Soul Waves started as just one blog, as an
mm,
outline, and you can do that sometimes. And then some people go, "Oh, I like the idea of that. Have you ever thought about writing a book on that theme?" And then the book can
mm,
arrive. Nowadays, people use things like Substack, and I use audio as my output. So I don't even publish any books anymore until the audiobook's out. So I test it
mm,
out in audio. And what's great about doing it in audio is that you can really hear your voice. And if
mm,
it doesn't sound great out loud, you know that you might have to rewrite that sentence because people won't be able to read it in loud. So yeah, so so the fear is the thing that causes the writer's block. So address the fear, and then you're into the flow.
Yeah, I love the fact of what you said, address the fear, because I find that in these spiritual communities, there's too much emphasis on love and light, and let's not think about anything negative. But I think you have to acknowledge and alchemize that negative energy or thought. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I have my own fear. I have my own theories about negative energy. I
Mm.
think it's just positive energy not pointing in the right direction.
Okay.
So there's not you can't have a negative. It is a thing, but
Mm,
it's not being channeled into the right direction. So if you've got the feelings of negativity, write them out.
mm,
I was a magnet for some time. A lot of people came to me because they'd had abuse in their life. A
mm,
lot of women had some form of abuse, and we wrote it out. Sometimes some did, they never published it. Often I would encourage them not to write in the first person, to write into the third person, and make it so it sounds like it could have been true or not true.
mm,
And they're some of the best books. I mean, Paulo Coelho is an expert at that. You read his books, you think, is this true or not true? It sounds so real. And that was my aim, to become that writer that could write a book of that same nature. You don't know, is this true? What this person's talking about? And that's why writing a future history. So Solway starts in 2058 when I'll be 100. I thought, well, I haven't got to prove it. I'll justify it by then. And it's a future history subtly written in past tense.
Uh-huh.
And that's why it sounds like it's true, because I'm always writing it. It's almost like I've written it from 100 years after the book had happened, as if it's a history of something that happened. And that's what
Right.
gives it that veracity. Yeah.
Amazing. So it's not enough talk about, the fear of, being magnificent, as you say. So, because, and also what you talked about earlier about the Benjamin Button, I do believe, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, that sometimes, it's like ideas come from some source, and if you're not going to act on it, someone else will. Do you see it like that?
Yeah, that was the subject of my third book, funny enough, The Art and Science of the Light Bulb Moments. Where do ideas come from?
Mm,
And before I was doing any of this work, I was quite an inventor, and so I had loads of patents to my name, and I invented widgets for the broadcast industry. And some people said to me, "Oh, I had that idea, yeah, but you didn't do anything with it." Yeah, so
mm,
the same idea is out there because it sits in a collective. And one of
mm,
the things I teach authors is how to dive into that collective or tune into that collective and actually channel the words from the future
mm,
that they've written. So
mm.
it's imaginative, but it works. So you go to a future version of you, let's say when your book is published, and get the words from the future sent back to the present. Works an absolute treat.
Yeah, you saw recently I put I got my future self on um using ChatGPT, and I put it on LinkedIn, and it was a picture of me at 70. I thought it was such an interesting exercise because it made me not fear aging so much. I just thought it was really cool. Imagine how many books I've got at that point, It was
Oh
really
well,
exciting.
you encouraged me to use it to look at what I look like when I'm 90, and then I went and deleted it.
But you can ask us. I mean, I'm a healthy person because the first version was like, "Hey, I'm really healthy. My mum's got doesn't have that many wrinkles," and I thought, well, I'm looking after myself. I don't drink, and so I kind of got it to improved over time. Someone who is healthy and stuff. So I do think that helps definitely because the first one was like, oh my God, yeah, it was really bad. So you're also a channeler and a seer. What does that actually mean?
Well, a seer, better. I like you like linguistics. So if you think about a seer, spelled slightly different, it's SEE-ER, a seer.
Hmm.
I've had the ability for a long time to see the future or see the near future, and I've got meditations on that, how to tune into precognition, how to tune into prescience. Again, our language gives it away. Put hyphens in prescience, and you get pre-science.
Okay. And are they on the Insight Timer?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Uh, I think one's called Becoming Prescient, and the other one's Tuning into Precognition. I've also got one of there called Being Grounded, which is really important. There's one of
mm,
our guided visualizations where you're sitting on the seashore when your feet are in the sand. Sometimes I do procedural meditation, so follow this, breathe like this, do this X, Y, and Z, and you get a certain result. Um, Other times I do guided visualizations where I take you on a journey. Like there's one where on called the Well of Emotions, where you go into a little clearing and you drop sadness and guilt and anger
mm,
into a wishing well, and you hear splashes as you drop these things in. And these are like stories. I call them meditales because they're like
mm.
stories. Stuff like that.
I
Yeah.
love
So
that
it's
linguistics.
so to answer
Many
your question,
tales. Mm,
yeah, a seer is seeing the future, either the near future or the far future, and a channel is bringing stuff down. Now, in my channeling course, I initially teach people how to passively channel.
mm,
And passive channeling can be a bit dull and repetitive. Whereas what I teach people how to be an active channel. On an active channel, you create a framework and you channel into it.
could
So
you
you
explain what that means?
so let's say you're writing a book
Mm,
and it's 12 chapters. Then and you want the reader state at the start of the book, so they've just opened the book because they're intrigued by this prospect, and you have a desired reader state at the end of the book, and then the chapters take the reader on a journey
mm,
through this process you want them to end up at. So each chapter then becomes a step on that journey. So
mm.
if I know I'm writing a 12 chapter book, it will be written in 12 days, be channeled in 12 days.
Wow. Can you write that fast? Or I'm actually using voice typing now sometimes because,
Well, I change the speed of time. So what I'll do is I'll stay in the hypnopompic state. I know before I go to bed, I want to get the next chapter read to me. And this is what
uh,
channeling So all the soul waves, I knew roughly where I want the ending to be, but I didn't know the steps on it. And it's almost like the book's been read to you, and then all you're doing is transcribing it. And so I recently wrote this book called Time Restored, and the whole of the first chapter came in a dream. And then I thought, well, I need an example of how you write what's called nested loops, which are opening loops and stuff like that. And so that's my end state, that the people would what they want to read the sequel to that book. But in the meantime, I've taught people about time loops and temporal alchemy. So it's a fictional book about a school of temporal alchemy being set up. Starts with a phone call from the future with the lottery numbers to this couple, and takes them on a journey across
Wow.
Stonehenge and Avebury and all these sort of places. So yeah, so there's a channeling seriously in the near future, but also you can sear the past as well. So you can go into the past and you can heal the past instantly, and manipulate the past as well. I tend to be more future based, more futurology based, and then a channel is just getting stuff down from the collective that you don't know, and that can be stuff from the future, stuff from the past, or stuff from what you call the higher realms.
Mm. So, do you have any daily practices that you do every day or regularly to?
That's a great question. Well, I think one of the after a while, when I first started meditating, well, it's going to be 20 years ago now, 12 or 20 years ago, I'd always do that 10-minute meditation minimum. On days I couldn't meditate, I'd go for a walk, and after a while, you find you're in the meditative state pretty much all the time, and you don't have to formally meditate. So what I tend to do now is what I call medi writing. So I channel something in every day, even if it's just for my own personal journaling reasons, and sometimes that morphs into a blog, sometimes it morphs into the next book and what have you. So journaling every day is pretty much my practice. But I've got two dogs,
Mm.
so the dogs need walking, and so that becomes that meditative time. And often what you can do on that walk is say, I want a sign.
Mm.
And a sign will come from nature normally to live in a beautiful part of the world. You think that's the thing I was looking for.
Mm.
I think I was looking for um, the seed for a meditation once, and there was a broken gate. And that broken gate, the concept of a broken gate got woven in to that meditation. That sometimes the gate exists and you want to walk through it, but
Mm.
you have to repair it first before you can walk through it, then other people can go through it too.
Wow, I love it. So
So the thing I saw on the walk became
yeah,
the seed idea that I needed to do this thing.
amazing. And has that ever freaked you out in your life?
Well, I've talked about weird things. Uh, I've seen entities
Mm.
not from this world, had visitations. I had a meeting once with a lady, business meeting, and she completely morphed into this entity in front of me and just said, she said, this entity, not her, said, Tom, we've given you all these things. Why have you not done anything with them? The clock is ticking.
Wow.
And then the entity disappeared and she went back to normal. She had to go and sit in a car for about half an hour. And so that was pretty weird, wasn't
Wow.
it?
That's so aligned because just 2 nights ago, I started watching Black Mirror and I just couldn't sleep after it. I don't know if it's the full moon energy as well, but I had this affirmation come to mind, which is, please God, help me leverage the gifts you've given me, which is kind of similar to what you're saying right now. Sometimes it can feel like you're not kind of getting the message out there fast enough, you know?
Yeah, I'm working on this magnum opus at the moment, which is that I like writing trilogies.
Mm.
So Ermintrude became a trilogy, and then I write books in sets of three. And then I wrote The Flavors of Thought on the major arcana, Planes of Being on the minor arcana. And I used the third book. The third book is about this esoteric glyph called the cube of space, which is
Mm.
it's a tool that allows you to do what I'd call a deathless reincarnation or a software upgrade for the soul. And I'm currently writing that book, and I got a message from a medium once saying, "This is not about us, Tom. This is a message from the divine ones."
Mm.
A very very detailed message about the thing I had to bring into this world. And I've had that since about 2012, so it's happening this year. So it's now
Mm,
it's going to come out this year. It won't come out as a book because
mm.
it's three-dimensional in its nature. And also, I want to do a lot of audios with it so people get into the states that I'm talking about in this transmutation from human level X to human level Y. So it'll come out as a sort of multimedia thing. It's going to come out in this practical alchemy school, but it will come out. It's called the Book of Overstanding. The whole thing, how do you overstand what we understand?
I love the all the linguistics. So do you channel from a specific entity or is it just
Not
sources?
really. I'm in touch with a group called the Council of the Light. Now, I talk about them fictionally in Soul Waves, and
Mm,
then in Soul Waves Insertions, which was the sequel and prequel to Soul Waves Future History. I wrote 12 short stories, and each of the 12 short stories talks about how an entity from on high comes down to the Earth plane at times of transition. And I've got them coming in the 1960s when we nearly had a sort of Cold War things. I've got them coming in the near future, in the far future, and in the far past as well, and also coming to the Earth before life formed on the Earth. So I go right across space and time with that particular book. So yeah, the Council of the Light is the group of people that I channel in.
amazing. So speaking of channeling, can you do you have any messages for me? I'm at a real crossroads in my life for the last 6 months. It's been incredible. I've been going through some very big personal challenges, but very big professional success. And part of me wants to just be calm and grounded, and another part of me wants more excitement and movement. Just the other day, I looked at my Instagram reels and I saw a day in the life, and I looked at it from 2 years ago, and I thought, oh, my life is exactly the same. I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing in terms of my habits. So I'm at a kind of I want to kind of rebrand and become more get more into the personal development spiritual space because it's sexual wellness is what's paying the bills right now, and so I'm kind of building up this other part of my offering.
Mm.
So yeah.
Well, let me just tune in to that
Mm.
crossroads. So imagine, Venus, that you've come to a literal crossroads.
Mm.
This crossroads is like one in America. So it's got four give way signs on.
Uh-huh.
Right, so you can't just go straight across, no matter which way you come to it from. You've got to give way, and just pay attention to the language I'm using. You've got to give way, right? So that's the first message that I've channeled in for you. So I don't know what that means to you, and it might just unfold as we explore this. So in front of you is a road straight ahead.
Mm-hmm.
There's a road to the left, and there's a road to the right, and there's one that's behind you.
Mm-hmm.
So the behind you one is a bit like the road that's available to all these people that got writer's block. You can sit there because it's safe, and you can sit at this current give way sign for as long as you like. It won't hurt you. You can have a perfectly good life. But there's a road to the left, there's a road to the right, and there's a road straight ahead. And most people will get really, really confused about which of those three roads to take. 99% of the people just sit on that same road. They don't go past that give way sign. But there's three roads open to you. Okay. And let's imagine if you were to journal in next time you go into meditative state, what are these three roads? So one could, I'll just mention one because the one I know is you as the in the thing that's bringing the money in. That's one road. Do you see that to the left of you, to the right of you, in front of you, or behind you?
Maybe to the left. I don't know why. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So leave it to the left. That's funny.
Yeah.
I saw it to the left, but I don't actually.
Okay.
So that's to the left of you. What road would sit to the right?
Um, I'm not sure. I see the one ahead. Can I tell you about the one ahead?
Yeah, please go do the one ahead. Yeah.
The one ahead, I see, because I see that every time I speak to someone on my podcast, this is what makes me really passionate. Um, it's unlimited. It's like yourself. I felt like you've had to have one speciality in life, but with this podcast, it's orgasmic lifestyles about reaching climax in all areas, so I can give myself the permission to speak to spiritual people, to speak to relationship experts, to health, nutrition, and all of those things, and not be so tied down to one thing. And I
Mm.
feel that that has to grow in me, and it's very kind of I can't be categorized. So that's something I see. But there's also that lack of categorization, if you will. It also kind of lacks structure for me. So I'm not sure how to proceed. And I'm finding that the overwhelm of the paid work, which is getting me to my financial targets, I need to free up time to go down this road ahead of me. So that's what I see, and that's what brings me excitement as well. Because I think there's also a big fear of, because I think what's really hard in the current life of being online, it's always this, you have to kind of be out there on online and proving who you are, and I'd like a bit more flow, I suppose. So, but I see the road ahead as being massive potential. I don't doubt my potential. It's just kind of getting on that track, and then having these other kind of more spiritual conscious things helping me
Mhm.
advance. But the one to the right, I just see, I'm not sure what I see to the right. Maybe, yeah, I just see it more as a head thing. Maybe the right one might be more of a traditional path. I don't know.
Yeah. So so imagine then that the imagine that on the path to the left, the path to the right, and the one that you're currently on are three things, three energies coming together,
Mm-hmm.
right? And none of them know which to go ahead. They say, "No, you go first. You go first. You go first." Right? What if you were to say, "Why don't we go first, all together?" Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a metaphor I want to share with you here, which is the chariot in the tarot.
Oh.
Right, and on the chariot has got two steeds in front,
Mm-hmm.
and the charioteer is there on a carriage, right? So if you were to allow two of the current elements to become the steeds, they're just doing they're providing the motive power for you.
Mm-hmm.
The chariot is the thing you're driving, but the charioteer, who is you, is not doing the driving. It's just letting the steeds do the pulling, the chariot to be the vehicle for your soul, and the charioteer is actually doing the observing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a reframe of where you are right now, where you become the observer of you going down the path as opposed to you doing all the pulling and the pushing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't need to pull or push. You can just be and enjoy the ride. Now, a lot of people will feel quite guilty about that because it's easy and it
Mm-hmm.
takes a bit of trust. And I've only got to that point by doing it. You said, how did you get there? Well, I did a little bit and I did a little bit. And I don't think I've had 1-star reviews and all that sort of stuff, but I've never, but I've still got my biggest stuff to do, so the stuff I really want to say hasn't been said yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but have found this soul path or the ability to get onto a soul path and get pulled along and
Mm-hmm.
shown what is possible. And that path lies ahead of you. So the two elements the two elements. Imagine that the chariot is the one that's the vehicle. It's sitting on the road. You allow the two elements to come in from the left and the right, and they become the steeds. You jump on the chariot and just go. Let them pull you along. So let the stuff that's bringing the money in do that.
Mm-hmm.
Allow the even the straight and narrow version of you to be there as well, because you want a steady steed in front of you. You don't want something that's wild. What have you? Allow them to pull you along, sit on the chariot, and enjoy the ride. I'll leave you.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Another question I have about, that's the professional side, but in terms of love, I don't really talk openly about my current situations on my podcast ever. I just talk about what I've learned and then apply that as content without, respecting people's privacy and stuff. But something that's been quite a challenge to me is, I discovered through journaling actually that two of my biggest limiting beliefs about love was, one was thinking that if I'm a sexual wellness expert, that's going to be intimidating for some men. And another limiting belief was I'm too weird, to be, fully held in my entirety. But through this podcast, I've interviewed people such as, Steve Nobel, who's all about the embracing the weirdness. And with his partner, he does this Starseed networking event. And I realized that they have the same lexicon. And I thought how wonderful to be really, showing up as your true self, and you attract someone who's on your energy. So I know that it's kind of good to honor your weirds because the right people will come. But also, I also have interviewed people who have, very healthy relationships, and they're still in the kind of same professional sphere as me. So I know it's possible, but I've had that's been one of my biggest challenges in life. But now through this podcast, I'm interviewing a lot of relationship therapists, learning about communication frameworks, losing the fear of conflict, and I just hope I can. I've just come out of a very kind of very deep learning experience. So I would love to know like how that's going to proceed, or what's unfolding for me now. I would say I was in a current state of healing and self-discovery as far as love is concerned.
Um, a lot of the answers to your questions sit inside my school of alchemy,
Mm-hmm.
in a grounded way. So, what we're doing right now is we're vibrating our fifth chakra point.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts from our sixth chakra, and if channeling in, they come from through the seventh chakra and beyond. So if I ever do a live channeling, it's not coming from me, it's coming through. But what we're doing is we've got conscious control of our fifth chakra point, and we learned how to do that about 2 million years ago when literally the word was made flesh. You can take conscious control of your fifth chakra point of your heart. And it's something I learned to do maybe about 10 or 15 years ago, or maybe 10 or 15 lifetimes ago. And I've got a course on how to do it. And when you take conscious control of your heart chakra, all the stuff we've been talking about to do with manifestation kind of goes out the window. And what you're doing is you're activating your soul wave generating point.
Mm.
And that beams out to the universe. And all the things that you need to come in just come your way. If you're after a business partner or a life partner, you can attract your business partner or life partner using active control of your heart center. And the other thing you can do is you can heal anything and anyone, past, present, and future. The weirdest thing I've done is heal a budgie in a cage in Vancouver over Skype before Zoom came out. So you can do all these things with the heart chakra, and then we can also then learn how to take conscious control of our lower chakra points. And I know one of the things that happens when you take conscious control of your root chakra point, and I've mentioned it's in soul waves, fictionally, is you learn to levitate.
Wow.
Okay. And I've done it. I get a lot of things shown to me once safely, and then say, "Oh, we'll show this to you, Tom." And it's not right for you to be able to do this, but I have this dream where I teach a whole class of people how to levitate and what have you. So so for you, conscious control of your heart chakra point is the next step.
And what does that actually mean, conscious control of my heart chakra?
It's all explained in this. So basically, you when we learned to talk,
Uh-huh.
didn't know what it meant. So
Okay.
with your voice, you could say nasty words.
Uh-huh.
You could speak vindictive words. You could sing. If you're me, you'd sing not that well. You could sing. You could this Shamankara can actually heal using the sound that comes out of her voice. I interviewed someone on my TV show just 2 weeks ago who can heal with the sound that comes from that sixth chakra point. With the heart chakra point, I've got 3 examples in this course of what you can do. So one is you use your heart chakra so it feeds back on yourself, and you learn to love yourself more, and you build up your self-love. And when you build up your self-love, not in a narcissistic way, amazing things just get attracted into your life just at the most perfect time. You can then beam from your heart chakra out to anyone, past, present, and future. But you can also, this heart rate, you can direct downwards, so you can direct it into the earth plane and beam love into Mother Earth, and you can direct it upwards so it goes up to the collective, and you can beam love out to the consciousness. You can also beam it back in time as well, so you can beam it back to earlier versions of you that maybe didn't feel so loved, and instantly when you heal the past, you become healed in in the present. So I've got examples of that inside the course, but the course is more than that. It starts in the root and goes up to the crown, and it also activates the alpha and omega chakras and takes you into a state known as the unified chakra, where you
Mm,
basically become just one big chakra, where
mm,
you can still individually control all the chakra points, but you basically just become like a cosmic egg of chakra.
mm. I'm actually on that journey now of actually pumping up my self-love, and I'm creating a course called the Eight Pillars of Self-Love. And I've been practicing on some people, and I thought I need to do this to myself and really take a deep dive into each pillar. Do you think this is the way to go for me?
Yeah, and of course, you got. I'll make sure you've got complimentary access to that as well.
Oh, amazing! So I can share before this gets aired.
Mm.
Amazing. So do you think self-love is going to bring me the love I desire?
I don't think that I know that,
Okay.
and that's a. I'm saying this from a heart-centered love perspective.
Mm.
But I'm not my head saying that. My heart is saying that's it.
Mm. Yeah, because it's interesting because we've shared about the Catholic background because that's the opposite of self-love. It's always self-effacing almost, this growing up with that guilt. When you talked about the guilt in a stone, imagine that like Catholic, that would be a
Mm.
massive rock we'd be throwing in. And it's really hard to kind of shake that off, in life. It's always a big challenge, but I'm glad I have that experience because it can help me understand people who are a bit more repressed a bit better. I've got that empathy, but it's really hard to shake off and realize that you are important, because we grew up feeling that everyone else was more important than us. When you have a
Yeah,
sort of,
I remember being a good boy when I was
mm,
about 7, not because I wanted to go to heaven, but because I didn't want to go to hell.
yeah, that fear.
Yeah, yeah. The fear of God. It was literally again that language gives it away. What is really going on at that point?
Yeah, and also just going to church out of fear, not because you really want to.
Yeah. And Lucifer's a good guy. He's the derivation of Lucifer is the light bringer. He's the bringer
Yeah.
of change, and that's why he's been demonized because the Catholic Church don't like change. They like things to be the same.
Have you read I love this book, The Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill?
I haven't. And again, I've got to say this. I've heard of it, but I
Yeah.
don't tend to read a lot because I don't want to plagiarize.
I was the same. I actually thought the same because I was a writer for many years. I used to write for El País
Yeah.
here in Spain. So I wrote 100 articles and I didn't read books. I thought I don't want any interference. But then when the pandemic, I actually discovered Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And that's how I discovered sex transmutation. And that I was like, oh my God, if this can change my life, how many other books can change my life? So I became a really big reader and it's helped me so much in life. So it was just been a really kind of late hobby of mine. So I understand what you're saying. But in the Outwitting the Devil, he talks about organized religion being the devil, and free will is actually not the godly. So, and also he was very ahead of his time because he was talking about tobacco as you know making people have short attention spans, and this is a time when people thought tobacco was healthy. So. It's kind of a fictionalized conversation with the devil, so it's really interesting about mind control and things.
Let me show you. This is the devil in the
Yeah.
tarot. This is,
Yeah.
by the way. So he's got a navel.
Yeah.
So he's born of man and woman.
Hmm.
So if he's angelic, he wouldn't have a navel. Adam and Eve, the chains around their neck are loose and they can just take them off.
Wow.
So pictorially, this says what the devil has become and how he's been represented. I also love the Tom and Jerry thing. The devil always appears. If you do a Google search on
Mm,
images and you
mm,
do devil on the shoulder,
mm.
more than often not, about 90% of the time, he appears on the left shoulder and the
Oh.
angel appears on the right shoulder. And Latin for the left hand is sinister.
Oh, siniestra. It's like in Spanish then. Yeah.
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 So basically, in our culture, all these cultural things get embodied in our neurology, and as they become embodied in our neurology, because our neurology is plastic, we can unembody them and we can rewire them. And
Mm,
meditation is the key for this.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely, definitely. So is there any book that's changed your life or are you just not a reader in general?
Yeah, no, the big book that changed my life that I vibrated to, and as I read,
Mm,
was Paul Foster Case, The Key to the Wisdom of Ages. And
mm,
that's the book about the major arcana of the tarot, and it's quite a complicated book. And I said, right, I've got to translate this book into a modern idiom, and that's why I wrote 2 books the Flavors of Thought, which is a contemporary interpretation of the tarot. And it's not, it's inspired by the tarot. It's not about the tarot. I didn't even use in the first edition the word tarot in it because I didn't want to put people off that
Mm,
would be intimidated by the word tarot. And again, that's a clue for you with the work you're doing.
mm.
Don't use the word sex in anything, but it's all about sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. And then I did the other part of the book was the Minor Arcana, which I've just done in Planes of Being. That's about 2012, and I'm just about to do the third part, which is one page in this book. I'm going to take into this massive tome of
Mm.
stuff to do with an esoteric, two esoteric. There's the Tree of Life and the Cube of Space, which you can't find that much information about. But I've been studying them and channeling in what they're really about. And I'm just about to take on board. I've got this thing here, which is that's a hypercube.
Uh-huh.
And so this is a tesseract, a 4 or 5 dimensional cube. So I've taken the cube of space on and I'm giving it more dimensions.
Wow. I actually do tarot every day, the Rider-Waite deck. And today I got the Empress. I do one card a day. And I do Celtic Cross for some friends. And I do sometimes three card readings. But it's just incredible how it just seems to be right. How do you use tarot?
I use it to create spells. So
Ah.
what I did when I wrote Flavors of Thought, I love a metaphor, and
Mm,
so each tarot key I describe as a flavor of thought, a certain mode of thinking.
mm,
And the tarot, we see it as a deck, cards stacked on top of each other, but it's better represented as the major arcana is better represented as 3 rows of 7, which is 21 with one at the top. And then from there, you can mix those things together in triads and create recipes. So the
mm,
recipes become modern day spells. And then when you get things like the Cube of Space and the Tree of Life, you can map every single key onto them. And that's what I call a master spell. So I use it as an initiation device. So
mm,
I've got 3 decks in front of me: the Osho Zen deck, one called the Bright Ideas deck, and the Rider Waite. Right now, the Devil
uh,
is there in front of me. It's because I've just pulled it, and that's basically saying about how it's everything is a perception, and all you've got to do to change the world around you is to change your perception of it. I've got one here, which is in the Osho Zen deck, key 19, which is innocence,
mm,
and that represents the innocence that I take to the world. I don't presume anything. I've got this joyful curiosity. And thirdly, I've got one which is nurturing from the Bright Ideas deck. The Bright Ideas deck is a deck you can take into a business because it's got no tarot stuff on it
mm,
at all. It's got no nurturing. And that says that, but do all of this with self care.
mm.
So do it all, but keep you look after yourself, because we're playing depressurizes. You just put your oxygen mask on first. Love yourself first, not in that narcissistic way, and then it gives you that infinite capacity to love so many more as a result.
Amazing. I love it.
At the
Mhm.
same time, because your heart center is so active, all the things that you need in your life get attracted to you at the most perfect time.
I love it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do meditation when we finish here because I'm really inspired to do a silent meditation just to see what comes in. So, is there any affirmation or quote that you live by?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? Um, I just looked down at my desk
Mm,
and and in front of me is another set of cards, which is a set of angelic cards, and one's in front of me. It's called Morana, and it says you're on a cosmic journey.
I love it.
On a cosmic journey. This is just part of the cosmic journey,
Hmm.
and this is just one very very small part of it. And like all journeys, like I was saying to you on your journey going forward through the crossroads, it's to be enjoyed and savoured, and observe it.
Hmm.
Don't
Amazing.
feel you've got to keep your foot on the pedal and be driving all the time, not stopping off. You need to have pit stops. You need to stop. You need to come to wide points. I'll just go down here for a bit, see what happens. I can always join on again. So yeah, enjoy the journey and know that you're on a cosmic journey across all space and time.
I love it. So, where can people find you?
Best place is my website, www.tomevans.co.
Mhm.
You'll find links to my books on there, links to my free meditations on Insight Timer, and links to this school I was talking about as well. And I've just started a new metaphysical TV channel called Practical Alchemy on New Reality TV. But go to tomevans.co, not .com or .co.uk, and you'll find everything there.
Amazing. I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time today on the orgasmic lifestyle. It's been a real pleasure.
Me too. Thank you so much. So I'm so glad that our soul paths have crossed. Mind.